Welcome to the Are We Idiots Show, where we question the status quo on society's important issues while mixing in plenty of laughs along the way. Now here are your hosts, Mark Weaver and Rich Kroll.
Everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Are We Idiots Show. We are your hosts, as always, Mark R. Weaver and Richard B. Kroll at your service. Richie, we're back for part two.
You know, we got a ton of thumbs ups, and there were so many questions that I want to make sure the listeners that took the time to send them, we get those all out. So we're doing a part two, a sequel, if you will.
And sequels usually aren't as good as the original, but we're going to change that right here. And I guess in 96 episodes we've never done a part one and part two. So it's fresh ground for us. And, we're innovators, Rich. So we're going to go with it.
We are innovators. I think this is very similar to Godfather Part 2. Just as good as the first.
I like Terminator Part 2. I
think that was good as the first as well.
So, Richie, we'll skip the tip of the day today because I know you're going to give lots of tips on these answers anyhow. But we definitely want to thank our patrons: Mark Zlotnikoff, Eric Weaver, George Muldoon, Chris Barbie, Dr. Dave Nadler, Alvaro Puga, Rick Linares, Darren Tapp, Scott Carney, Larry Helms, and thank you all of you guys for helping us produce this show. I have some idiots here quickly for Rich, and then we'll get back into part two of more Ask Us Anything questions. So, Richie, we'll get right into it. Here are my idiots of the week. An accused porch pirate. You know what a porch pirate is, Richie, in the holidays, right?
A porch pilot.
Pirate. The people that steal. Yeah. People that steal the deliveries off your porch. But
that's happened in our neighborhood too.
Yeah. Has been arrested after wearing the exact same shirt the very next day to a South Carolina courtroom, as he had worn stealing the packages. A series of events began after a picture of a man in a green and red North Face shirt was posted on the Goose Creek Residents Group Facebook page by someone. By someone claiming my iPhone was talking to me. By someone claiming that he had stolen a package and had been left on the porches of the neighborhood. The next day, the Goose Creek Police Department confirmed that the man had been arrested after appearing in the courtroom wearing the same shirt he had been pictured in while stealing the items off of residential porches. Quote, "Remember seeing that post on the left?" the Goose Creek Police Department asked in the social media post. "Well, sometimes people actually make our job very easy. This guy decided to come into our courtroom the day after the first post was made, and lucky for us, he was even wearing the same shirt. We are happy to say he is in custody." So he helped them with the evidence.
You know, the last show we talked about a police officer who was wearing his uniform while stealing things from Home Depot. People really need to think their robberies and burglaries in more detail. Think them through better.
And today, everyone, just like we talked about last show with the cop and security cameras in every store. I mean, how many people have security cameras, the Ring devices, and out in front of the device? And plus, not even necessarily that particular home. All the homes around have cameras. So, I mean, there's cameras everywhere, folks. Stop stealing stuff.
It's crazy.
All right, Richie. The next one is, according to new research, people are still using easy-to-hack passwords like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, the word password, and I love you. Of the 200 worst passwords, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the most commonly used in 2020, with 2.5 million people choosing it, according to research done by NordPass. Moreover, despite several reminders from cybersecurity experts, of which you and I are, Rich, after comparing the list to the most common passwords in 2019 to 2020. There's virtually no difference. So, years and years of people being stupid, it just doesn't matter. They want easy ones. Here are I'll go through them quickly, Rich, just to tell you what a big problem this is. Number one, as I said, was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Number two, See if you can guess what that one is.
Your name.
No, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Oh, add 3 digits to it.
And then picture 1, password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1.
That's a good one.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. And lastly, the 10th most common one, which I would have guessed, is Senha, Senha, which is Portuguese for password. So, Richie, those are your 2 quick idiot nominees.
Well, sometimes when you're robbing and you're porch pirating, you get distracted. You get busy. Sometimes you don't have time to eat or brush your teeth or change. So I kind of get the guy with, he had a busy day. He might have slept in his shirt and he got back up to be efficient. Just went, to save time. He went right to court. I get that.
Probably didn't have access to a shower either.
No, he's busy. Now, people are in a hurry. People have busy lives. We've talked often about how do you build more margin into your life? Well, one of the ways is to reduce from taking 10 seconds to put a password in to 5 seconds. Because that 5 seconds you save, it doesn't matter that your $50,000 stock account is exposed or all your private documents to your bank and your passwords to your credit cards. You saved 5 seconds by not putting in a capital letter and a small letter and a special character. So this is a tough one.
Which, by the way, that NordPass, the research agency, said that if you have one of these top 10 passwords, a hacker will take 1 second to break in.
Yeah,
1 second.
I'm surprised it takes that long. So, I'm going to vote the passwords because there's so much that can be stolen from you via cybersecurity. And it literally, a password, just plugging some different keys in or hitting caps lock or using it takes an extra 5 seconds, people. Yeah. Right? So come on.
And I get it because it's a pain remembering passwords, but the alternative is much worse. Trust me, we're in that business. Trust me, they pay us a lot of money to help defeat these hackers. So, Richie, thanks for that the verdict for and promoting our industry at the same time. Way to go.
Who do I send the dollar to? What's that organization?
NordPass.
NordPass. We'll get the dollar this week.
There we go. So, Richie, we promised that we would get this show out quickly to keep the momentum going from our last show. We had a lot of fun and a lot of questions, but we have a lot more. So let's get right into it. I know you have a little more backup than I do, so fire at me. 2 questions, and then we'll go back and forth.
All right. These 2 questions come from Carol Wagner, legendary elementary school teacher from Medford, New Jersey. She says, when is someone going to take a stand against this one-sided media coverage in the world today? And it's a legitimate question. Let's start with you, Mark.
Well, I guess that depends on whether it really is. And by the way, I think Carol liked me better than you. I know you have a relationship with her, but I think she likes me on the show better than you, right? Isn't that what we?
Very, very possible. Yes. Yeah.
But I may break her heart here because I think there is. We talked about this a couple shows ago. There is alternative media on the right, even though I think most of us would agree that the quote old traditional mainstream media is definitely much more left leaning. And, to be specific, the CNNs, the NBC, CBS, ABC, NPR, all those folks, certainly the Washington Post and the New York Times. So, yes, there's a juggernaut on the left, but there is, unlike 20 years ago, there's a lot of outlets on the right. And we mentioned some of them on the last show. So obviously Fox is one, but a lot of people think Fox is tilting more or tacking more to the mainstream. But talk radio is really the biggest names in talk radio are all conservative and right-leaning folks. Breitbart and some of the Drudge used to be, but Drudge is now kind of turned against Trump, so people think he's not as conservative. So that I would say there are plenty of outlets out there, Carol, though, on the right and the left. There's not many libertarian outlets, I can tell you that. So I'm really in a desert.
Thank God for that. But Carol Wagner, I agree with you. There's way too much far left liberal leaning. There's way too much, and it starts in our far left liberal universities with these, university professors trying to be cool and being friends with it's just, when is someone going to take a stand? I don't know that it can, because it's so far reaching. So I think
everything can change, Richie. Everything can change. Remember that.
I hope it does. Now, her second question, being a very prominent elementary school teacher since retired, is why isn't phonetic spelled the way it sounds?
Boy, that's a tough one, because I mean, there's so many weird ways to spell things. The English language is really, when you think about it, it's really, really an odd derivative, I guess, of the Romance languages, right? But I mean, it's just not a very logical language, and it's not very consistent, and it's got a lot of special rules, and I'm glad I don't have to teach it.
But that one just went over your head.
Why?
What is the definition of phonetic?
The way you pronounce it. You mean the way it's a word is described, or what do you mean?
Explaining how a word is pronounced based on how it sounds. So, for instance, phonetic is spelled Phonetic. But if you're trying to teach phonetic to understand what that word is based on how it should look from an alphabet perspective, it would probably be Phonetic. So it's actually an oxymoron. Sorry, Carol, went way over his head.
Yeah, it did.
Funny question. Actually, a very funny question. I don't know the answer to that one.
All right, so I got a question from our buddy Barbs, another patron. And he said, with all the talk of court packing by the Democrats, has there been a history of this in the Supreme Court? And so this was one question I actually did look up, because I thought it deserves a decent answer. The Constitution doesn't set the number of justices on the Supreme Court. It started out with 6 in 1789 with when George Washington was president. And over the next 80 years or so after that, it kind of floated around. John Adams took it to 5. When Jefferson came in, they took it back to 6. It got up to as many as 10 during Lincoln's time. And basically, exactly what we're saying would happen today is if they packed the court, they would do it to try to support a legislative agenda. And that's exactly what happened during those 80 years. And as each president came in, they would try to make the court to their own advantage. And that's exactly what would happen. The only time it ever got talked about to go up as high as 15 was during FDR. And this is really the most famous time of court packing, or at least attempted court packing. So when FDR was trying to push the New Deal through, a lot of people were pushing back against it. And he threatened to pack the court with 15 justices. And his own party rebuffed him, and he lost that fight. So since FDR and the New Deal back in the late 30s or early 40s, whenever that was, there's always been 9 justices, and I think it's going to be that way for a while, because Biden doesn't seem up to doing it, and nor do several Democratic senators. Thoughts on that, Richie?
No.
Well, Barbie got his answer then. How about that?
I mean, how am I going to top that answer? All right, here's one from Sadiqa Paget, the artist formerly known as Kristen. I'm curious as to why hypocritical behavior is so rampant in the U.S. Like at the airport, they make you social distance, but will yell at you and will yell at you if you stand too close to anybody in the security line. But then you're packed in like sardines on the airplane for hours, where people are anti-democratic while they're getting government handouts, or people are pro-environment as they use Windex to clean their windows. Hypocrisy seems to have become the norm in our country, and I wonder what the bigger meaning in all of it is.
Amen, Siddiqa, because I hate hypocrites, and I try to call out hypocrites and frauds and I guess the inconsistencies of people in power. But I think the same exact thing. How about this, Richie? You can't go to a ball game. You can't go to a baseball game or a football game, sit outside in a stadium, sit next to someone, but you can do so in a plane. I mean, and the whole fact I mentioned on the last show, the government was closing down certain, mom and pop stores, told them they can't make a living, but then they let Home Depot open or Walgreens or whatever else. The big businesses, they're allowed to stay open because they're, quote, deemed essential. So there's hypocrisy everywhere. I'll even go this, Rich. I'm going to offend some people probably, but I got to be honest with you. I saw these. It's a horrible thing, but there's these. You see these food bank lines where cars are lining up all over the country. There's one in Dallas and San Antonio, and it's horrible, right? That people feel the need to feel that they're in a situation where they have to go sit in line for food giveaways. But I got to be honest with you. The majority of the cars that I saw are nicer than the ones I drive. I mean, they interviewed this lady. She's driving like a brand new Tahoe, $50,000 car, and she's in a food line. Like, I don't know. Come on. I mean, I know that's heartless, but I mean, I'd like to have a $50,000 Chevy Tahoe. And then she's saying, like, I can't make it if I don't get this food. I'm like, what? I mean, come on. Sorry, I was off.
No, if we were in person, I would see the veins popping out in your forehead. No, my sister's right. You know what it is? It's people want to look good and look honorable and charitable, but at the same time, they can't get out of their own selfish, tempted ways. I mean, popped into my head these mega church preachers that are preaching the Bible, and then they're, having affairs with 10 women, and they're stealing money from all these poor people to live in nice houses. It's everywhere. So, sis, you're spot on.
I don't know what we can do about it though, other than expose them.
Nothing.
I mean, yeah, you can. We can expose them, Richie. That's I'm a big believer in solutions. I'm an entrepreneurial guy. I believe just expose, transparency. Siddiqa, the answer is transparency. That's what we need.
It's more than that. It's parenting. It's being raised properly.
Wait a second. There's plenty of people. There's plenty of people in this world that have, there's all kinds of case studies where parents have raised 6 kids the same way, and 5 of them are great, and one of them's off the rails. I mean, there's individualism, Rich. I mean, you can't blame the parents.
Stop it. You're such a principalist. It's impossible. All right, so here's one from Scott Gabrielson of Westchester, former captain of the Philadelphia Wings. See the C on me, Gabes.
Is that a real pro sport, by the way? Lacrosse?
Well,
a lot of people would doubt that.
Well, you almost act like you knew what the question was going to be. Do Philly sports fans realize that they have one of the best sports teams under their nose in the Philadelphia Wings? The best player in the world is on the team. When will they finally be recognized as a legit pro sport? And when will players make $1 million a year?
When the Libertarians become president, Gabe's. It'll never happen in our lifetime. I'm beginning to wonder. Now, I mean, lacrosse is a great sport. I actually wish I would have picked it up. I quit baseball in 10th grade, and I think lacrosse is a great sport. It's a lot like basketball, actually. A lot of the movements are the same, and I think the athleticism. I'm not quite as tough as some of these lacrosse players, but I think the athleticism is similar to basketball. So it's a great sport, but, let's be honest, it's not a pro sport.
Well, and let's be honest, it's a bunch of 5'11" white guys running around. It's only going to be, but it is a great sport. I wish I played it. A lot of these guys are my friends, and I I don't think they'll ever see the day where they make $1 million a year. But
You were too slow to play lacrosse, Richie. You're too slow for that.
I could have been a defenseman. They tell me a Division I defenseman. Here's a real quick one from Gabe.
I just want to finish, Richie. One thing. Just what do you think is going to happen, Rich? Lacrosse players make $1 million, or a libertarian becomes president? Which happens first?
Lacrosse players making $1 million.
Yeah, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that was a good question. And libertarians, no shot. Real quick question from Gabe's. What do you never leave short?
You never leave a jump shot.
A birdie putt.
You never leave a jump shot short, because I used to tell my kids when I was coaching that if you leave a jump shot short, it has absolutely zero chance of going in. If it goes long, it at least has a shot to go in, because once you get it past the front of that rim, it has a shot to go in. It may not go in, but you never leave a jump shot short.
Same premise, yes. So I'll give you credit. Same premise. You can't make what you don't give a chance to go in.
All right, I got one from our buddy Dog. And good guy, and he reminded me he wanted me to say to all the listeners, remember, Dog is God spelled backwards. No, he didn't really say that, but
good point.
So Dog says, he was probably directing this at you, Richie. The Olympics, is that an outdated event, or should we have more Olympic type events and more Olympic games? What's your thought on the Olympics, Rich?
I love the Summer Olympics. The Winter Olympics, not as much. I just think there's too many obscure, quote, events in the Winter Olympics, like skiing around on flat ground, shooting at things. That's just bizarre to me. Curling is sweeping ice to get a big piece of metal to a certain spot. It's just weird, right? But the Summer Olympics, dating back to Marathon Greece, are just, I love them. I mean, my family, we still get around them for those 2 weeks and watch them every night. I think track and field events are awesome. I love it, and I wish we did it every 2 years instead of 4. So, Dog, yeah. I mean, the family can watch it. It's entertaining. The athleticism of the events is awesome. I wish they did it every 2 years.
And I think Dog's also point in the question was also that I didn't read it, but he thinks that would be a good international way to bring people together and nations together, as opposed to, being at each other's throats too. So it's a good unity excuse as well. So
absolutely, I'm with him. And Dog, you're a good dude. I always liked you. All right, this from one of our patrons and legendary guitar player Rick Linares from Long Island, New York.
Nice.
Asks, if you had access for 1 hour to meet any person in history, who would it be?
Wow. We'll throw Jesus out because, that's too easy. I would say Churchill. Yeah. I'm a big Churchill fan. You could make a pretty good argument that the Western world as we know it today would not be the same if it wasn't for Churchill. So, and again, there's probably other people in different times, but I mean, certainly in the last 70 years, he seems to be a very critical person that lived, and when he lived, and what he did to stop the advance of Germany. So
this is very coincidentally crazy, and obviously we did not prep for this, but guess who is Rick Linares' favorite all-time government leader of all time?
He's a Churchill fan?
Winston Churchill.
Yeah. That just proves that we don't rehearse, Rich, because I didn't know that.
No, that's amazing. He'll love that. My answer would be Ramses II. So if you go back, Ramses was an Egyptian pharaoh who lived into his 90s when the average age lifespan at the time was mid-30s. So he outlived grandchildren. So in a time when Pharaoh was thought of as also a god and worshipped as a god, people really thought it because he was outliving grandchildren. and he wasn't dying. They're like, this guy has to be a god. He also had like 200 grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and they named the famous prophylactic after him, the Ramses rubbers. So it would have been interesting to meet that guy.
And only one wife, 200 kids, and only one wife.
Yeah, who knows how that works out. Here's another question from Rick. If a little crazy, he's an interesting thinker. If you could learn the time, date, and circumstances of your death right now, would you want to know?
No way. No way. And never. I've actually been asked this question before on a different string or something, but no. I think that would absolutely ruin your life if you knew, and I would never want to know, and nor would I think it'd be good for anyone to know that. That would be bad. What do you think?
I wouldn't want to know either. I think it would be depressing, and every minute you got closer to it, gosh, it would be. Yeah, no, I would not want to know.
I got one here from Eric, our patron, and he says, Rich, what is the most interesting documentary you've ever watched?
Wow.
Your favorite? Maybe not most interesting favorite. I guess it's kind of the same.
I've watched a ton of sports and military documentaries. But I got to say, some of the ones about UFOs.
Oh, no.
Life.
Oh, no. Michael Paget.
Yeah. I'm not saying I believe.
No.
I'm not saying I believe in UFOs, but I find them fascinating with the ones that have real people, like, from our military off of aircraft carriers, or people in these telescopes that are high in the mountains, or I find them fun to watch.
So mine would be not anything from Ken Burns, but in particular, I love Ken Burns documentaries. They're amazing. They're excruciatingly long, but they're so well done. And in particular, the Vietnam series that Ken Burns did. Rich, I don't need a lot to be mad at government, but if you watched that documentary on Vietnam, he takes you through how Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, and Nixon and their administrations and their defense secretaries, they all lied for political purposes and kept sending boys over there and girls to die. 57,000 Americans. It was just such a I was visibly angry after watching it, but I enjoyed it so much because it was so well done and so well documented. But Ken Burns Vietnam documentary, watch it. Back to you, Richie.
All right. So this comes from Kirk Langston, one of my top 2 favorite VPs of sales of all time, from Salt Lake City, Utah. Is it true that California has been seriously considering a wealth and exit tax, which puts a tax on people that leave the state for as long as 10 years?
Yes.
Absolutely unconstitutional and communist, but shows how far gone they are as a state to even consider something that ridiculous.
But I will say this. I've been a lot of places. California is really beautiful, so I don't blame people paying a little bit of a premium to live there. And I think their GDP is like higher than like 80 or 90 countries, or maybe more than that. It's higher than most countries on Earth. It's a nice place to live, but yeah, the government there is crazy. I think the personal state income tax, last I checked, was 13%, and now they're talking about this wealth tax on top of that, and it'll even go back like to 10 years. I mean, that's not going to pass, I don't think, but they're going to keep being, cutting edge progressive. That's what they've been doing for 30 years. The crazy thing is California, if listeners didn't know this, California voted for Reagan. So it wasn't that long ago that California used to be a Republican state, more of a conservative state. And in the 50s and 60s, it voted Republican in the presidential election consistently. Now, Republicans don't even campaign there. So
yeah, now Kirk, they're getting closer to communism every day.
They may succeed. They may secede from the Union.
They very well could. Here are two quick ones from Mark Cortese of the Main Line, who's the executive producer of the Buckley Men, a documentary telling the story of Haverford School's great coach, Neil Buckley, one of America's most successful high school wrestling coaches. Was
that a paid ad, by the way?
He did pay me for that. Is there such a thing as a soulmate? With 9 billion people on the planet, is there only one person for you?
No. And this is easily provable because I forget the statistics, but overwhelmingly people marry and mate up with people in their close geographic region. So obviously there's a geographic proximity component to relationships and mating, and that obviously means there's a lot more people out there. My wife tells me every week there's a lot more guys out there I could love.
Mary Ellen, that's tremendous. So I'll say this. I got my marriage right the second time, and I have as close to a soulmate as I can get. So I don't know how to answer that question. There's probably multiple people for everyone, but there might be a soulmate for everyone. And maybe you'll never meet them because they live on another planet, or they live on in Iceland, or who knows. But I think you can get close.
And remember, no one's perfect, but someone's perfect for you.
Oh, that's sweet. Tell Mary Ellen that. All right, here's the second question.
Yep.
Ben Franklin said everything is good in moderation. Does that include drugs, sex, alcohol, money, and rock and roll?
If that's what somebody wants to do, go for it. You're asking a libertarian if they think that's okay.
Well,
I think that's a generally good rule, that everything in moderation is a good way to go through life. And I don't think, obviously if you do heroin, it's going to, that's an addictive drug that you just have to get more and more of. That's probably going to not be good in moderation. But I think as a general rule, like we talked on the last show, Richie, about if you just eat pretty good, that's usually a good start. You don't have to go crazy. So I think generally a good rule, everything in moderation, is pretty good. And I think I would even go as far as to say that balance in life is a good mantra, to have balance in everything that you do.
Well, here's what I'll say about Ben. First of all, the guy's a genius. Love him. Philadelphian. He should have shaved his head, though. That Ben Franklin look with the hair around is awful. But I think he misspoke. He should say most things are good in moderation, because everything is not. Murder's not good in moderation.
Wow.
Like you said, taking drugs is not good in moderation, addictive drugs. So he almost got that saying right.
It might have been whispered down the lane. It might not have actually been quoted correctly. You never know. Ben's a pretty smart guy. He started at the University of Pennsylvania, He was my man.
Yes, he
my
is your man.
My alma mater. Is it you're up or me?
You.
Okay. So what is the best and worst thing about the United States today? What is the best and worst thing about the U.S. today?
I believe it's the level of comfort and freedom that we don't even realize we have because we live in the United States and take for granted. So we had a couple things break in the same week, like our refrigerator and our garage door opener, and we had some water pressure issues, and all of a sudden things you just whip through and don't even blink an eye at. Our life was kind of challenging. And I thought, holy moly, what if you live in a third world country or somewhere where you don't have access to fresh water or electricity or ice? You can't take a shower. Maybe you can't get food easily. You can't turn on your computer. Gosh, there's so much we take for granted in the U.S. And we have freedom to kind of come and go as we please with very little obstacles. So I would say that's the best part of the U.S. The irony is I'd say that's also the worst part of the U.S. because we have so much freedom and so little obstacles. people get way out of hand and they take things too far. And, it's evident in today's world with our bipolarization. And, you brought it up earlier. The far left and the far right now do not do anything in agreement for what's best for the people. And I think it's causing a lot of radical groups, and a lot of radical groups have the First Amendment right and all that stuff. And it's slowly leading to the detriment of the U.S.
Well, I would say I would almost answered it very similarly, and that's another reason why we don't rehearse this, but it's kind of ironic. But yeah, freedom is the best part about the United States, and obviously as a libertarian, I believe that liberty and freedom are better here than anywhere else. And with that, you have to be tolerant of other people's, which we're not very tolerant as a country now. So I would say the best and worst is the same thing. And actually, I actually think that people's personality traits are often like that. People's strengths are also weaknesses. So it's weird how those things often are one and the same. So, Richie, what's the next question?
All right, I got one. This is from Villanova soccer head coach Tom Carlin and his neighbor Jim Belzer, FEMA executive. Where does the NFL Red Zone channel rank on the best inventions of the past 20 years?
You want to hear something that may surprise you? I've never watched Red Zone. I don't have it. I've never watched it. I've heard everyone talk about how great it is. I've never watched it. So there's a quick answer.
No, that's fair. Some of these questions we're both not going to know the answer. I'm going to say it's top 10 inventions of the last 2 decades. It's not too far behind the smartphone. It's not too far from desalinization of ocean water to turn into fresh water. It's up there. It's very highly ranked.
Do you have it?
Yes.
Nice.
You have to have it if you're a football fan. It's a game changer.
Maybe I'll have to spend. I have 40 subscription services. I don't have that one.
All right. Here's a serious one from Dave Forbes, former stuntman for Superman movies out of Kansas City. Term limits are the only way we have to correct the wide range of problems currently existent in government, especially in Congress. Pros include polls reveal that well over 65% of Americans favor term limits, especially Congress. The main source of resistance to term limits is the legislative bodies, i.e. Congress, that must pass them. Term limits will ensure continual fresh and elected government, ensuring real independent governmental overwatch and judgment. There's several other pros and only one con here. Term limits remove voter choice by disallowing them to vote for a candidate who has reached the limit of his office. Thoughts on that? I thought this would be a good one for you.
Yeah, and I would love it, and that is the pushback from the people that are in power. They say, well, there is term limits. You just have to get voted out. But there's such a tremendous advantage for incumbency, and the percentage of incumbents that get reelected is very high because of all the money that's involved and all the graft and the lobbyists, which we never did the lobbyist show. But yeah, I mean, term limits, balanced budget amendment. Hey, if a libertarian was involved, there would be really changed government. Right now, the Democrats and Republicans 80% of what they do, they agree on. 80% of the budget, they both agree on. And the two main parties box out competitors, including third parties. So yeah, I'm with you. Blow it up.
I got a bunch more. Do you have any?
Yeah, go for 2 more, and then I'll go another one.
All right. This comes from Big Daddy Dan McCusker, also known as Rope, Havertown Waste Management Executive. Is Bill Gormley the new spokesman for Weight Watchers, replacing Dan Marino? I would say, Big Daddy, it's a legitimate question. Billy's looking good. He's cut out a lot of carbs. He's done it the hard way. He's earning it. Dan Marino's always been in shape. I don't know why he's the spokesman other than getting a multi-million-dollar contract. But unfortunately, he is not the new spokesman.
Who is?
There is none.
You got another one, or want me to go?
No, yes. This is coming from Big Nick Wright, Alabama Crimson Tide. Played 1 year under Nick Saban. What is the appropriate limit of inflatables for your front lawn during the Christmas season?
Oh man, if you ask my wife, there would be no limit. She'd have her whole front lawn filled with inflatables. She loves that lawn. She calls it lawn trash. But we don't have any. But maybe one day I'll break down and let her do it. But I really hate those things. They look so trashy. But I would say, if it was up to me, if I even did it, I would say 5. 5 would be 5 pieces of lawn trash would be my limit. How about you?
Big Nick, there is no limit. I want you to completely cover your front lawn, your neighbor's lawn, the street, your rooftops. I want you to Clark Griswold your home with inflatables because you can get away with it, and they are awesome. I love them. There is no limit.
I do like a manger scene though. That would be kind of nice.
That is nice.
Okay, I got one for you, Richie. I'm sorry. Do you think that children born today will have a better or worse life than their parents?
Our children?
Yep. Children born today. So, yeah.
Worse. So, I believe, and I love my daughter dearly, and I think she's breaks the norm of the new millennial laziness and cluelessness and entitledness, but there always comes a generation after climbing the ladder, decade after decade, century after century, where you hit a ceiling, right? And I think, we kept improving and improving. There's not much more you can go. I mean, we kind of know what all the jobs are that are the highest paying, whether it's owning your own business, sales, doctor, lawyer.
No.
So I don't think we can improve. And I think a lot of these young people expect to retire after working 10 years, they'll have $1 million in the bank because they're going to get it from their parents. I don't think the overall work ethic or toughness since the World War II generation exists. Not that it doesn't exist for some. A lot of my friends' kids are great kids, and some are outliers, but it's now the outlier. So I don't think our kids will have a better life.
So I vehemently disagree with that. And when I say kids, I'm talking about everyone's kids around the world. That every generation has talked like you just talked about. This is it. We all know all the good jobs. Most of the jobs that our kids will have aren't even invented yet. And that is always the case with all these generations. So there's going to be so much abundance, so much technology, so many inventions that increase life expectancy, increase the pleasures of life. They're going to live like kings lived 100 years from now. Now, a different question is, will the United States be as strong? I'm much more skeptical about that. But humanity will continue to get better through innovation and education and science. And yeah, they'll live better lives for sure.
Great. Well, I appreciate and respect your answer, although I don't see it. Anyway, here's one from our good buddy, mutual buddy, Mike Angelos, one of the best point guards under 6 foot out of Upper Darby. Guys, why are we not taking voter fraud more seriously?
Now, if only Mikey would listen to our podcast, because that's a veiled shot at Mikey. But yeah, he is a Trumpist, and he still thinks that, he thought Sidney Powell was going to be the answer, and it turns out she's a total crackpot, which anyone else could have told. She'll probably fade into oblivion here in the next week or so. They've already boxed her out. But sorry, Mikey, it's only a minute part of the voter population, the fraud. There's probably some fraud that helped Trump. You'd never admit that. And anyone else who believes Trump can still come back and be president, you better watch some other alternative news sources.
Mike, all I can say is this, if you're listening, it's a crying shame, right? There's been hanging chads ever since Bush 4. And I know there's a lot more with this election. All right, here's next question from Billy Gormley, president of Marion Pump Company, one of the most prestigious and successful companies in Havertown's history. As we celebrate 250 years on July 4th, 2026 as a society, are we nearing the end of the U.S. empire?
Well, yeah, we had a question earlier about that, and I don't know. I don't think any of us know, but there's definitely troubling signs. And if you look at history, military expansionism and debt, trying to over expansionism and debt have been the two main drivers of how empires crash. The Romans overexpanded, the Turks overexpanded, the Mongolians overexpanded, Genghis Khan. The British Empire tried to rule the seas all over the world. So, yeah, empires tend to fade when they try to do too much and they try to grow too big. And our government is huge, spending money we don't have in 180 bases around the world, trying to police the world. It's not a good sign. And we're spending our grandchildren's money as we speak. So, yeah, you've heard that from me before.
Billy, there you have it. I'm going to ask one more. I'll repeat one more question from Billy, and my answer may offend my partner Mark R. Weaver here, but he asks, guys, will there ever be anything close to the most special golf tournament ever put together, the Havertown Ryder Cup, going on its annual 25th year this summer? Billy, no. And my buddy on this podcast runs a tremendous golf tournament each year. The Shore Cup had it.
Not in the same league, though. I'm not in the same league. I'm just this tiny little event.
Yeah,
I'm a niche.
You're a niche. This is 48 guys that through the millennial has come together with fathers, sons, grandchildren. Now my friends' sons, cousins. People have come and gone. People are deceased. Over 4 days, 48 guys, 4 rounds of golf, beef and beer every night, Sunday picnic. It's almost impossible this thing has gone without a hitch for 25 years. No, Billy, there will be nothing ever again in social golf lore.
I have one final question, Rich. All these props and commercials you're giving out today and in the last show too, is there going to be any remuneration coming back to the Are We Idiots show for all these props and commercials?
Probably not.
All right, final question, Richie. We got to wrap it up. What do you got for me?
Oh, I do want to end on one. Well, I want to end the show on this question.
Go for it.
Because it sums up Havertown in some ways. This comes from Gary the Yaginator Yagmorian. Former contract negotiator of SEPTA and the best pulling guard in Annunciation Elementary School football history. Hey, we Democrats bailed you rich college grads out of every single time you went broke with the stock market, the banks, housing. It's a disgrace. When are you commie right-wing Republicans going to pay your fair share?
Well, I'm not a commie right-wing Republican, and I haven't been for 16 years. But I agree with you. The Republicans are big hypocrites when it comes to, quote, small government and fiscal responsibility. At least the Democrats are honest about it. They want to spend a lot of money. They want to redistribute wealth. Republicans do the same exact thing through corporate welfare and what have you. And Trump's been the biggest offender of all. So I'm with you, Yags, but they're both bad for us. Let's just be honest. They're both parties are bad for us. They're sending us on a bad trajectory. And so that's the way I'd answer it.
All right.
What about you, Richie? You not going to weigh in on that one?
Nope. I am not saying a word. We'll just leave it at that. But it's been a great 2 episodes, tons of great questions. Had a lot of fun reading them and answering them.
Yeah, you're much better at this than I am, Richie, but that's all right. I have some good shows. You have some good shows. So, folks, make sure you listen. We have a couple more episodes before the end of the year. We're thinking about doing a Christmas-themed episode, and then we always have our year in review show. And, boy, 2020 has been an unbelievable year in so many ways. So if you're not familiar, our year in review episodes, we typically go back and highlight highlights and lowlights of our show, and then we talk about the society in general in year 2020, which has been quite unique and quite crazy. And and amazing in a lot of other ways. So make sure you tune into those episodes. And as always, please remember, if what you see or hear sounds idiotic, then we're just the guys to help you sort it out. See y'all next episode. Take care.
Thank you for listening. Please download, subscribe, share, and review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, and also our website.